कर दो. Hello everyone, a very logical day to all of you, and yes, a very logical weekend too. Let's see what we have in store today in the first editorial of April 22nd, the Indian Express. That is terror in Poonch. So, the attack on an army truck in Poonch in Jammu that killed 5 soldiers highlights the continuing vulnerability of this border area. In spite of tiers of security would mean different levels of security. In spite of that, this particular area seems to be vulnerable. That means easily affected. And therefore, this attack was done. Easily affected. Just let me write that. Okay. So, the army at the line of control, the Rashtriya Rifles in areas proximate to the border and the police in the hinterland. Now see, if you did not understand the meaning of the tiers of security, here the rest of the sentence is actually giving you this. 1, 2 and 3 tiers. Army at the line of control, that is LOC, the first Rashtriya Rifles in areas proximate to the border, and the police in the hinterland. That means here we have the police in the inner land, usko hinterland बोल दिया. यहाँ पर है army Rashtriya Rifles, I'll write it only as RNR, right? And here is the LOC and the army at the LOC, right? So this becomes the different layers of security. Now the guns have been silent at the LOC for 2 years in observance of a 20-year-old ceasefire to which both the Indian and the Pakistani armies recommitted themselves in February 2021. But going by the infiltration attempts that the army claims to have foiled को आप easily spoiled से कर सकते हो, because the army would claim, now understand what will the army claim, that they have actually failed the attempts by the opponents, right? So infiltration attempts se army claims to have foiled means spoiled. So this cross-border activity that used to be a regular side story during ceasefire violations continues to take place even now. So what they are saying is that the guns have been silent, right, in the observance of that 20-year-old ceasefire, but still the infiltration attempts are going on. And these attempts are foiled by the army. So in this first paragraph, what we can understand is that this particular area in Jammu is vulnerable. LOC, the two countries are actually observing that ceasefire, but still the infiltration is going on, right? So we have two things. One, vulnerability of that area. Second, the infiltration still going on, and in between the connectors we have this, the guns have been silent, right? So if I connect, which I have been doing in this last 2-3 days, if I can connect these 2-3 parts that I have circled in the passage, you can easily come up with the central idea. You can see that the vulnerability of the area is still present. Why? Because the infiltration attempts are being made, and though in spite of the guns being silent at the LOC, right? You only need to fill in the words in the same context of the passage that you have understood. Now in January, police held cross-border terrorists responsible for the atrocity perpetrated against the civilians in Dangri village in the Rajouri district, a border district neighboring Poonch. 6 people were killed. Despite an extensive search of the area, the assailants were not caught. Thursday's attack took place near the site of a 2021 ambush in which 9 soldiers were killed. An intense search operation for over a month by security forces was not successful in locating the militants. In 1990s phase of militancy, Poonch and Rajouri were seen as easy gateways for cross-border infiltrators. But for a good part of the last 20 years, the hostility of the local communities towards the militants had ensured that they did not linger there for too long. ठीक है। अब सोचो, अगर हम प्रेप लगाते हैं इस पैसेज में, एंड नाउ आई होप मोस्ट ऑफ यू नो व्हाट इज प्रेप. Author's point, then the rationale that he gives, and then the examples that he gives, and then the point consolidated. A very quick briefing of this prep is this, but you need to apply it in your reading, right? Now, the first paragraph, the major point was that the vulnerability of the area is still there, in spite of the guns being silent at that LOC. The infiltration attempts are still being made. ठीक है, अगर हमें याद है हमने ऐसे 3 पॉइंटर्स बनाए थे. अब infiltration attempts are still being made being the main point, it is being exemplified till here. 3 examples the author has given. 2021, फिर एक और था 1990, and they here the date is not given, but responsible for against the civilians in Dangri village, ये ठीक है, जनवरी की बात है ये, ठीक है. So 3 examples are given there, and then they are establishing that see Rajouri and Poonch have become an easy gateways for the cross border infiltrators. वो गेट बन गया, आसानी से वहां से लोग आ सकते. But for a good part of the last 20 years, hostility of the local communities, and we have done this word, mind you, many times we have done in this class. Hostility means enmity or the aggression or the animosity. चेक योर नोटबुक्स एंड सी, जहां जहां पे मैंने ये वो कैप क्लासेस लिए हैं वहां पर ये वाला वर्ड तुम्हें डेफिनेटली मिलेगा, ठीक है. तो हॉस्टिलिटी ऑफ द लोकल कम्युनिटीज अब हो गई है, बिकॉज दीज पीपल ऑल्सो डू नॉट वांट द टेररिस्ट टू स्टे देयर, तो दे विल नॉट लिंगर टू लॉन्ग. तो लिंगर का मतलब होता है वहीं कहीं ना कहीं भटकना, इधर से उधर जाना, उसे लिंगरिंग कहते हैं, right? So the increasing number of incidents in the 2 borders have shown the ease with which these elements are able to remain untraced even as they mingle in the local communities for food and shelter. So mingle would mean now mix, so they would mix with the local communities for food and shelter. Though the local communities would be hostile towards these people, they will not let them linger for too long. वो कहीं ना कहीं फिर चले जाएंगे. तो this change should worry those in charge of the UT's security. Equally worrying are the drone deliveries of weapons in the border areas, as pointed out by India at the UN Security Council just last week. So what is the cause of worry? These people lingering in the areas, right, in spite of the hostility of the local communities. मतलब local communities hostile हैं अभी, ठीक है, लेकिन फिर भी ये लोग इधर उधर भटक रहे हैं in the mingling, that is mixing with the local communities for food and shelter, right? And the first part of the paragraph was about the atrocities perpetrated at different times, right? January and then 2021 and also in 1990s. Clear? So we have the 2 points together now in the passage. Clearly, see, ऑथर भी ये बोलता है ना, सिर्फ मेरी आदत नहीं है क्लियर पूछने की, ऑथर भी ये पूछता है या बोलता है. तो क्लियरली का मतलब हो गया है, इतना जो एक्सप्लेनेशन दिया उससे साफ जाहिर होता है कि, राइट. सो देन द ऑथर वुड राइट, दोज बिहाइंड द एम्बुश आर होपिंग टू थ्रो अ स्पोक into India's planning for the G20 meeting on terrorism scheduled to be held in Kashmir Valley next month. ठीक है, ये है बात. तो नेक्स्ट मंथ अगर G20 की एक और मीटिंग चलेगी टूरिज्म पर, तो फिर ये लोग क्या करना चाहते हैं? they are hoping to throw a spoke there. Spoke का मतलब होता है, it is like a thin, जैसे एक सरिया या एक लोहे का सरिया नहीं होता है, in that way that is a spoke, right? A spike or a spoke. Spokes उसमें भी हो जाएंगे ना, व्हील में भी जो होती है तारें जो होती है ये. तो टू थ्रो अ स्पोक का मतलब हो गया है कि एक सपोज एक G20 मीटिंग हो रही है, तो दे नीड टू ब्रिंग इन सम और द अदर हिंड्रेंस देयर और एन ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन देयर, राइट? So this meeting on tourism has been scheduled to be held in Kashmir Valley next month. But such cowardly actions can only strengthen Delhi's resolve to go ahead with its plan for the meeting, right? So such cowardly actions can only strengthen Delhi's stance for the center resolve to go ahead with its plan for the meeting. That the ambush took place hours after the announcement of the Pakistan Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto that he would attend the Goa meeting of the Foreign Ministers Council of the Shanghai Cooperative Organization may be a coincidence. उन्होंने ऐलान किया, डिक्लेयर किया कि वो आने वाले हैं और ये एम्बुश हुआ, ठीक है, just hours after this announcement. But it is not the first time that a positive development in India-Pakistan relations is followed immediately by a terrorist attack. Now, this will be the first visit by a high-ranking functionary from Pakistan since 2016. So, who is coming? The foreign minister, right? And he is going to attend this foreign ministers' council. Okay. Now, this will be the first visit by a high-ranking functionary from Pakistan since 2016, when Sartaj Aziz attended the Heart of Asia conference in Amritsar. Multilateral fora have on occasion provided space on the sidelines for India-Pakistan bilateral diplomacy with mixed results. कभी सही थे, कभी अच्छे थे, कभी बुरे थे, ठीक है, मतलब कभी कुछ प्रोग्रेस हुआ उनके आपस में रिलेशंस में, कभी नहीं हुआ. So multilateral fora would mean, it is, if you know the word forum, most of you know this, FORUM, तो उसका प्लूरल हो जाएगा फोरा, राइट? मतलब कई अलग अलग प्लेटफॉर्म्स थे, उसे फोरम कहते हैं, जिससे मीटिंग होता है जहां पे, in that way. So, but spoilers may be already out and about to preempt the outcomes. Spoilers, मतलब spoilers का मतलब होता है गेम बिगाड़ने वाले, right? सीधी सी बात है. So, when they think that something positive is going to happen with this meeting, there would be people who would be designing or scheming that this positive result should not appear now. राइट, तो उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस पॉजिटिव ना हो, ये सोचने की या ये प्लान करेंगे वो बैठ के. सो दैट विल बी अ स्पॉइलर. सो स्पॉइलर्स मे बी ऑलरेडी आउट एंड अबाउट टू प्रीएम्प्ट द आउटकम्स. सो प्रीएम्प्ट वुड मीन लाइक इफ द स्पॉइलर्स आर आउट, दे आर गोइंग टू प्रिवेंट द पॉजिटिव कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस. सो यू ऑलरेडी कैन अंडरस्टैंड द मीनिंग ऑफ द वर्ड preempt, that is to prevent the outcomes. So the government should be aware of this and must firewall these important diplomatic events from falling hostage to enemies of peace in South Asia. Right, the government should be aware of this. मतलब अगर governments दोनों देशों की कुछ करना चाहती है positive bilaterally, and there would be people who would not like this to happen, right? They want to create some problems again. So our governments should be ready and prepared that there will be people who are actually against this positive consequence or positive outcomes, and therefore what will they do? They would be ready with their negative plans. Author says that the government should be aware of this. Agar author ne ye likha, to definitely the government will also have all this in mind. So the government should be aware of this and must firewall these important diplomatic events. So firewalling these events का मतलब क्या हुआ? Firewall is actually where the fire would spread. To stop the fire from spreading, they would come up with a few sheets, something in between, so that the fire doesn't spread very rapidly. Right? By the time the fire people come, the firemen come. Right? So in this way, this is called firewall. So what can the government do? It should firewall these important diplomatic events. That means stop something negative from happening. So they need to put the hindrance to those people who are actually spoiling all this, right? From falling hostage to enemies of peace in South Asia. तो enemies of peace जो है, उनके रास्ते में, उनके इरादों के बीच में भी firewalls governments को लगानी पड़ेंगी. I hope that was clear to you. Now to the main idea. So New Delhi must keep up the heat on Islamabad, but firewall diplomatic events from purveyors of terrorism. ये करना ही पड़ेगा उसे. Firewall यहाँ पे as a verb या action आ गया है कि this is something that the government has to do, right? So that will be like to protect. So they need to protect the diplomatic events from those people who are who would be the perpetrators of terrorism, you can say, right? So New Delhi must keep up the heat on Islamabad. So we have these 2 pointers from the first 2 paragraphs very easily. Now coming to the vocabulary part. Vulnerability, as we understood, will be susceptibility or weakness. As I said, prone to or easily affected. ठीक है, जिसके लिए ये नया वर्ड है वो लिखेगा easily affected. Otherwise, if you know the word, you can write the word susceptibility then as a meaning. Right? So vulnerability, a better word would be susceptibility. Easy word would be prone or easily affected. Proximate, adjoining, neighboring, so close. Where did we read this word when we were coming up with a multi-tiered security? ठीक है, यहाँ पर hinterland था, अभी हमने देखा ना, hinterland would be the inner land or the inner surroundings, right? यहाँ पे हम inner भी लिख लेते हैं. So now inner land में हमारे पास police थी. If you go back to the first paragraph, you will find that this is a police, and here we have the rifles, and here we have the army at the LOC. So this becomes a multi-tiered security. So infiltration we can now understand, because this is something that we have been reading for the last 7 to 8 days. ये कई बार आया है infiltration. Penetration, access, permeation. That means people from one area easily coming to the other area where they are not permitted, right? So that will be penetration. Foiled हमने कहा, thwarted, blocked, stymied और spoiled मैंने तुम्हें easy सा word दे दिया था. You can write this also. This will be easy for you to remember the word because they are rhyming, foil and spoil, right? So thwarted is something that is blocked or stopped. A thwarted growth of the child. The thwarted मतलब रोक लगाना. Atrocities are the cruelties. Brutality, now cruelty is an easy word, brutality will be a little better word. So those who do not know the word atrocity can write both these words, cruelty and brutality. Those who can understand the word cruelty, you can write the word brutality. Perpetrators of crime होते हैं. This is something that you have been reading many times you have read. So perpetrators would be those people who are executing or performing, enacting the crime. Ambush, तो ये तो बड़ा easy word है, but I still giving you ensnare and entrap. कि उनको धोखा देके छिपके, bush. देखो ambush जिसे नहीं सुना है वो ये सोचे कि bush में छुपके और घात लगाकर जब कोई हमला किया जाता है तो उसे ambush कहते हैं. ठीक है, और इसीलिए entrap आ जाता है, जाल में फंसाना, ensnare and entrap, right? Then hostility, again as I said, we have done this word, so we have the word anger, opposition, aggressiveness, and the feeling of enmity. That was the simplest word. Then to linger is to just loiter around, stop lingering in the corridors of your school or college, so that will be linger, मतलब इधर उधर भटकना. Mingle, we did it. Mix or socialize, mingle with the friends. When you go to a party, you would mingle with the people or strangers also. Spoke, यहाँ पे एक rod या shaft लिख सकते हो. Fora, as I said, is a plural of forum, the media, meetings. Preempt is to prevent, and firewall, as I said, network security firewalls are for web traffic management, typically intended to slow the spread of web threats. यहाँ पे मैंने ये firewall कैसे network के हिसाब से होता है, that is what I have noted down, right, for all of you. So firewall का basic meaning वही होगा, कहीं पे भी लगा सकते हैं हम. That's all for today, and thank you, and I hope you have completed reading or listening to these recordings for the entire week. And if you have skipped, kindly do it this week, because that will be a resolution that we are going to take in the next week, that is on Monday. Till then, have a logical week ahead, and thank you.